All right. So,
Hmm. Okay. How's your weekend?
good. Busy.
Busy.
Yeah. How about yours?
It was good. It was good. Yeah, I feel like I'm on a cruising speed at the moment. So
Is that good or bad?
it's neither good nor bad. It's both good and bad, I suppose. I don't know. It's just the way it is. Kind of reaching that Zen state, you know. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I've been rereading a book. Speaking of Zen states, so this book.
Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance.
Yeah.
You have a motorcycle.
Well, no, I don't. But
Okay.
after reading this book another 2 or 3 times, maybe I will.
Yeah, kind.
It's a classic book in history of America, I guess. The history of philosophical thought in America, I guess. So
That
from 1974.
sounds interesting. When I when I talk to people, I guess other people that talk about America, and they say it's a criticism on America. They say America hasn't lived long enough to have its own kind of culture, and maybe it is true, maybe it's not. I feel like America, it's different. It's very modern, and it does have its own set of values that makes it good. So great. Yeah.
Yeah, people have said that to me too, but I always just laugh when people say that. But if people ask why, then I thought about it at one point, and I realized, America has kind of like basically the same culture in America came from, maybe mostly from Britain, and came from, going back to like Rome and Greece, and you can go back like before Christ, you can go back like 2,000, 4,000 years. So you can go back like, 5,000 years if you want.
Yeah.
And then maybe 6,000 years. And if you want to, you can say that's American culture.
Yeah, that's a good
So,
point.
yeah, but it's
Is that your Ufi?
yeah. So America's the biggest European country. That's what I say.
Okay. Yeah, that's I like that thinking. Nice. Yeah, cool. Well,
This is one of the family dogs. I don't know if I can point the camera in that direction or not, but no, maybe I can't.
oh, he has gone away.
Yeah, she's. Yeah. Oh my God, this computer is heavy.
Wow.
There she is.
Looks wow. I would say it's a pretty dog.
Yeah, yeah. She's an Irish setter.
Yeah.
We've always had Irish setters since I was a kid.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
She probably wonders what on earth is that crazy guy doing with the computer.
Maybe she's wondering what on earth is that computer doing with that guy over there. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So administrative I guess we are done with the checking round kind of. So next is the administrative concerns. And how about, I think we can keep this meeting in an hour, under an hour or so.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, yep. And so for part one, I just want to say, last time I was cutting my own salary, so I just want to mention that I mentioned part of the reason why I did that, because I kind of feel like everything is slow for me. Also, the other half of the reason I didn't say it last time, because it's like yeah, I should say it this time. Yeah, I want to do it so that, I feel like right now the percentages are kind of, it's enough for me. If this project starts to make money, it's like I'm like investing 95%, so it's okay for me to kind of, I want to help you to kind of catch up a little bit. It's at the moment, yeah. And we'll change it once things start to develop, like when we find more investment, find next person, and when things start to get busier again. So, and yeah, for me in this project, as long as I have 5% stake in this, I'll be okay with it. So that's the minimum I'm comfortable having. So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and the next one is, I was thinking, so there was at one point when I was really certain we should register Actionnet as a nonprofit, and then there was at one point where I thought, oh, maybe we should make money off Action, and now that we've we've worked a little, I definitely believe that it's the right thing to do is to register it as a nonprofit foundation, and later on, if people want to make money, they can if they can build off Action. So it's so we separate these two things, making money and building something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and with that, yeah, I'll take a look where best to register this entity. Maybe America, I don't think in China, but we'll see. Okay.
Yeah, for a nonprofit, I think America will be easy.
Okay.
And yeah, you can get some advice from. It's been a long time since I was involved with that, but I think, yeah, I think it's kind of complicated because there's tax issues in America, even for nonprofits. But then, because the company is not accepting donations in U.S. dollars, then it's maybe some of the ways that nonprofits are set up, maybe it won't apply. So yeah, I think you have to get some advice from somebody who knows all those laws.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll ask around. And the timing for this is probably when we are on we have 4 people on the team that we're comfortable with, and things are rolling. So then it will be a good point to set it up. So and it will coincide with the 5th person joining us.
Yeah, that would make sense because we'll probably, if we set up a nonprofit in the typical way, you have to have a board. I think it's called a board of directors. Okay. Same as a corporation would have. Okay. But and then you have to set up your bylaws, which are the laws by which the company operates, or the organization operates. So I think we need a certain number of people to make the corporate structure work.
Yep, definitely. Okay.
Probably 4 people is good.
Yep. Cool. Next for part 1 from me is how's your schedule and itinerary going to be?
So I'm gonna show up in San Francisco on Wednesday afternoon, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I'll be there for 7 days. So I'll be leaving on the Wednesday after that. So yeah, and then after that, I don't know. So
okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's possible that I may stay in San Francisco longer than I planned, or it's possible that I may go somewhere else after that. But probably I'll just be there for 7 days and come back here. That's the plan.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still formulating my comments about that. Yeah. Yeah. It's an open future, so it's I believe it's we each are kind of optimizing our lives. So it's if every individual optimizes his or her own environment, then the whole kind of the whole group optimizes. Yeah.
Yes, I like that. I like that idea. That's a good point.
So, yeah, it's tied to what you said before, like staying flexible, because the future is, there are way too many variables to control. So it's like flowing like water, flowing with what happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was watching Bruce Lee yesterday about his kung fu fighting. He said that, or someone else said that. So, but okay. So will you work like on Actiom, or do you want to take a break, or will you take a break from it?
Yeah, I will. I'll be working because I want to get the website up, and
Okay.
I didn't get that done over the weekend, so that will be my number one goal on Actiom.
All right.
I've been doing a lot of research, and I've also been getting a lot of inspiration from all over.
Oh, cool.
So one of the well, of course, one of the inspirations is this paper here. So
Bitcoin peer-to-peer electronic cash system. That's the
some
paper.
guy, Satoshi Nakamoto, who knows who that is? But it was very interesting paper.
Yeah.
But what was interesting about it to me was that I think I read this paper like 10 years ago or whenever that was.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a date, but anyway, whenever it was, I had some friends that were really into this, like when it was $1 and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and at the time, I think I actually read this paper and I was like, huh, that's interesting. And then I just kind of threw it aside. And I had this one friend who's like, just kind of a crazy guy, honestly. So, but he was like, man, I'm putting like some serious money into Bitcoin. And I was like, yeah, whatever, So anyway.
Did he buy pizza with his Bitcoin?
I don't know. Maybe he was the guy who like bought the first pizza for 10,000 Bitcoins or something.
Yeah.
But I think he was like, no, I'm just going to keep it because, he just knew it was going to go up.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much money he put in, but I knew it was like when it passed $1, he was like, see, I told you it was going to go up. It's like, and now I think back, it's like, yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, it kind of did go up.
Yeah.
But the thing that I noticed when I was reading this again was it's like, it's almost like I didn't read it before, or I didn't remember any of it, because the actual process of like getting back to this reference was like starting from Ethereum, which is, different, and then reading like selfish mining and some of these attacks that exist, and then going backwards, and then reading this one again and reading this one. It's like after everything that has happened with this protocol in the time since this was published, it's quite interesting to go back and read this, and everything sort of appears in a different light. Yeah. So
what kind
it's
of light?
Like it seems a little bit prescient in some ways, but I have some notes in the margin, like section 2, many assumptions buried here.
Yeah.
And but then this section on incentive is just like 3 paragraphs, and it doesn't actually say very much. So a lot of the things that people assumed after Bitcoin started seeing some adoption was that people assumed like, well, unless you have more than 51%, there's no attack that you could possibly mount against the protocol.
Yeah.
And the paper doesn't actually say that.
Yeah.
It just says something like, this incentive may help encourage nodes to stay honest.
Yeah.
It's very non-committal.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
To come back and read this again.
Yeah. It's as if people see what they want to see, what they can see. It's yeah. So it's even if like truth just standing there before our eyes, it's only those people who already possess a certain set of knowledge that can recognize it. It's like picking it's like tuning into a radio station. It's all noises flying around. It's only if we know what we are looking for, then we kind of pick it out.
Yeah. I was just reading in Zen on the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, actually, and it's this story. It's actually a story of like a father and his son who are driving across the country on a motorcycle with two other friends.
Yeah.
But there's also this ghost in the story, and the ghost is we're sort of like hearing the story of the ghost, which is being told through like a series of flashbacks. So like things that happened to the ghost before he died. So one of the things that happened to the ghost was that he read Kant, and so he read Immanuel Kant. So the ghost, while he was still alive, he decided he didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. So he went into the army, and then he went to Korea, and then he studied Immanuel Kant. He came back and went to university and studied philosophy.
Okay.
So we get to the point in the book where they're like riding the motorcycle across the country and going up into the mountains, and then at that same time, this ghost is telling the story of how the ghost discovered Immanuel Kant, and it's like he's riding up into these philosophical mountains of this high country of Kant, where he's thinking about what is it. How do we know that anything is true, and what is the relationship between our sense perceptions, if any, and the ideas that we have in our mind?
Yeah.
Sort of these questions of epistemology, and at the same time that he's asking all of these very high level questions, they're sort of riding up into the mountains on a motorcycle. So it's kind of this metaphor.
Yeah. Just makes me want to travel a little. So it's
yeah. That's the best thing about this book, because he's talking about all this high level theoretical philosophical mumbo jumbo, and then at the same time it's like this description of these beautiful landscapes of the American Midwest and moving to the West. Yeah. And going up into the mountains. It's really if you haven't read if you haven't like ridden across those countrysides on a motorcycle or even in a car or a train or something, then you just read this and you think, man, it sounds so interesting, but I don't know what it looks like. But if you've been there, then you're reading it and you're like, yeah, it's exactly that way, and it makes you want to get on a train and go back. So maybe I should have taken the train to go to San Francisco, and then I could see all of those mountains.
How long would the train take?
The trains in America are very slow, so it takes... I've never taken a train from here to California. I took a train to New York from here, which is about the same distance in the other direction, but you have to go up first.
Yeah.
And it took about 3 days.
Yeah. Wow. Nice.
Compared to like 3 hours on a plane, so it's not really that practical.
Yeah.
And it costs more.
Oh no. Maybe they should.
That's the worst of it. Like the government pays a lot of they actually subsidize it, so the government pays it, so it's less expensive than it would be. And then you go and you buy the train ticket, and it's like, man, I'm paying 50% more than I would to fly there in 3 hours.
You know what? I think they can approach the train business as a tourist attraction rather than as a like a travel vehicle. That would justify people taking the train. Then people will stop complaining. It takes longer and it's more expensive. It's and I bet a lot of foreigners will take the train rather than take the plane to go to places. They can market it, totally different direction there. So it's
maybe it's they definitely need marketing.
Yeah.
But it is kind of like traveling. You feel like you're going back in time to a slower, gentler time when people were not in such a rush. And then you meet other people on the train who are also not in a hurry, because if they were in a hurry, they would have gotten on an airplane.
Yeah.
So Yeah, it is relaxing. And the thing is, you look out the window and you just see the countryside
Yeah,
going by you, and it looks like it's going by very fast
yeah,
because it's right next to you. But it keeps going by for 3 days at that same speed. Whereas when you're in a plane, you're looking down on it, and it doesn't really look like it's moving, and then you're there.
yeah,
So it's very different. You feel like you get a lot more visual information coming in
yeah,
from the countryside into your retinas
yeah.
when
Reminds
you're
me
at ground level.
when I was studying in Germany, I took in Europe the train system is quite good, so I took a lot of train. I traveled with train a lot, and yeah, it felt really good sitting in the train and just moving from places to places. It's very relaxing. Yeah,
Yeah.
never taken a train in America yet. So
Yeah, the thing is, America is everything is so far apart. So
yeah, that's true.
if you want to go anywhere, you want to go from one coast to the other coast,
Yeah,
which is pretty much ridiculous if you do it on a train, or you want to go from somewhere in the middle to one of the coasts.
yeah,
And either way, it's slow.
yeah.
So yeah, maybe when I feel I can take more time and life is not moving so fast, then I'll take a train again.
Maybe take a train and you'll feel life has plenty of time, or I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe I should buy a motorcycle. That's what I should do.
yeah.
And then if it breaks down, I say, well,
I've read that book and I know how to maintain it. I don't know.
I know how to fix it. Or
Yeah,
at least I know how to fix myself when I'm trying to fix the motorcycle. So yeah, one of the things I've been thinking about with Bitcoin is like the purpose of it is absolutely digital cash, and it seems like there's kind of a shift happening
mm,
in subsequent subsequent blockchain projects. So it's like the original one was, it's like we want to be able to send money from one person to another, and it should be anonymous, and it should be unblockable. It should be should rely on a trusted third party. So that's really cool, and
yeah,
that happened, and now we have that, and then it kind of other things have happened with it, and it's gotten a lot bigger than probably anybody ever expected it would at that time. Or maybe that's just me projecting, but anyway,
oh, yeah,
it certainly has suffered some troubles because of its size and because of all of the speculative investment that's gone into it.
yeah,
So you look at something like blockchain, and it's like, at the time, people would have looked at it and said, yeah, you probably can't really do that because it's one of those technical solutions to a non-technical problem. It's actually a social problem or a societal, governance problem, and you can't solve it with technical means. But the technical means are there, and they do solve the problem, and it does work.
yeah,
And then it got big. So now you have things like Ethereum, which are sort of becoming more general purpose and less specifically tied to cash. So it's like you can you can use Ethereum to send money to somebody else, but you can also just send Ethereum to somebody else, and they can use it to do computations. So it's a little bit like there's this thing that has the ability to function as a kind of currency, but it wasn't really designed as a kind of currency. It was designed as a sort of measurement of the cost of computation. So it's getting more general purpose, but it's not quite general purpose yet.
yeah,
So, and then there's things like there's things right now that are very specifically oriented, like Filecoin. So it's like designed to store information, and it has all this other stuff sort of built out that is necessary for it to be able to do that. And you have to be able to pay for things and so on. But it has that sort of narrow focus. So what I'm kind of thinking right now is like, what are the attributes of the solution that we want? And of course, if you're saying, you know, especially if you're seeking investment and you say, you know, we're going to build this on the blockchain, then the first question that any rational investor would ask you is, why?
Yeah.
Because, you know, it costs twice as much to build something on the blockchain as to just build it. And so the question is, what is the blockchain giving us? So I think there's a lot of things that the blockchain can give us here. But also some of the blockchains that exist are giving us probably things that we don't want and things that don't really align well with what the project is all about. So so I think that what's happened in my research at this point is that I've sort of caught up to the present, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't say that because there's actually a lot of papers that that I haven't read, but I would say I've caught more or less up to the present. With a few things around the edges that I you know, haven't caught up to, but basically I've caught up to kind of where things are now in terms of the theory of it, and it looks to me like there's different threads inside society that are all participating in this kind of movement. And the big ones are, you know, the people who see it as an opportunity to make money. So they see it as an investment opportunity because anytime you have a graph that is going up and to the right, and especially if it's going exponentially up and to the right, there's some part of the brain that is like tuned to that, and certain people, and they just look at that and it's like, okay. So, and I think that's, you know, a large part of the interest. So, and then there's these other people who are more idealistic about the whole thing, like probably Satoshi Nakamoto,
yeah,
who were looking at this like, you know, we have the opportunity to sort of build something that's going to fundamentally alter society or change society in some way. And that's where it gets interesting, because all the people who want to fundamentally change society have different preconceived ideas and different biases going in that they might not even realize they have.
yeah.
But, you know, you can see like strong libertarian influences in a lot of these. And it's funny how American the whole thing is, because like a lot of the guys writing on these, you know, these mailing lists and stuff, like you can just see where they're coming from is like, you know, we want the government out of our business. And, you know, like I've got a house full of guns, and if the government comes, and these guys are saying, you know, yeah, we love Bitcoin because it's like, yeah, try taxing this, you know, Uncle Sam. So, so you have that sort of libertarian undercurrent.
Yeah.
And then you have these people who are thinking like, well, you know, what are we actually going to do if we build something that is uncensorable and that is uncontrollable? Because then it means people can use it for anything. So thinking about all of that made me think back to something else that I read many years ago, which was a talk given by a guy called Cory Doctorow, who's an author, and he's also a bit of a self-promoter. So I actually listened to the talk, and it's kind of obnoxious because he constantly is dropping references to things that he did that were fantastic. And it's just like, oh, come on, just, you know, make your point. Don't tell us how great you are. But he does that, and he's talking about his books and stuff. But in between telling us how wonderful he is, he also makes this point, which is that basically there's a war coming, and this is you know, I think this was like 2004 or something like that. So it's already been a while, but he's saying, you know, there's this war coming against general purpose computation, which means instead of buying a computer that you can run any software on that you want, and instead of being able to control the software that's running on the computer that you have, we're going to move into this era where you just have appliances like like this. And on these appliances, you can only run code that is allowed. And you cannot just run any code you want. So even though you sort of own the appliance, you don't actually have complete control over it. So, and he was saying the reason why this is going to happen is because it's actually necessary for certain industries to get what they want. So you have industries like the Motion Picture Association of America, which is this big lobbying group for the movie industry. So they're actually trying to control your device to the point that they can like show you a movie and you can pay for it and watch it once. You can't make a copy of it. You can't make a recording of it because that would allow piracy. Yeah. So if they're going to be able to do that, that means that they have to have basically complete control over what's running on your software, on your computer, on your hardware, or on your device. So that's why they prefer closed appliances, what he called appliances, rather than general purpose computers. Yeah. So it's going back 10 years, a lot of people thought that's crazy because of course you cannot actually, if you understand the theory of it, you actually cannot have an appliance that isn't a general purpose computer, because anytime you can run any code at all on that appliance, you can always find a way. There's always a side channel. There's always some way that you can get the data that you want on there, and always some way that you can run any kind of data that you want, unless the whole thing is just completely locked down and only serves one purpose, like a refrigerator. So it's very interesting because, like 10 years ago, this was one of these sort of fringe opinions that I sort of thought like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And now I think we can actually see it happening, and it's definitely come a long ways. Yeah. And it was easy, and it wasn't hard. And the only thing that I think was wrong about the coming war against general purpose computation is that it wasn't a war. It was just like a very natural, smooth progression. Yeah. And now when we think about general purpose computation, it seems like something kind of weird that maybe theoretical computer scientists care about, but everyday people don't think about general purpose computation. They don't know what, Alan Turing proved. So it's really weird in these ways when I'm going back to like older ideas. And this is getting back to these undercurrents in the cryptocurrency movement. So you have this sort of like crypto anarchist undercurrent, yeah, where people are basically saying, look, the laws of mathematics are what they are, and the laws of physics are what they are, which determines what computers are capable of and what networks are capable of. And on the basis of all of that, certain things are possible and certain things aren't possible. And if you make certain things that are possible illegal, then people are going to do them anyway, but they're going to use cryptography to do it in a way that is undetectable. Yeah. And that's basically, what we see happening now with all this stuff.
That's interesting.
So that raises, I think, really interesting questions for this project. Yeah. Because
thank you for the background information.
Because what we were doing is we were actually building something. We were building a game, yeah, on the basis of a foundation, and the foundation allows all kinds of things. And if the foundation is there, we can build our game. Yeah. But we can also build all kinds of other things on that same foundation. Yeah. And if it turns out that foundation turns out to be used to build things that society decides it doesn't want, then, society is going to have a problem with the foundation. It's going to create a problem for us. Yeah. So, so that's the challenge and the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah. I wonder if the foundation is good. So it's all about the foundation. It's whether the foundation is good. It's all starts from the starting point. It's the initial conditions. It's yeah. Um, so the foundation. What's the foundation? The foundation is it's a different worldview. It boils down to a different worldview. It's how people perceive the world and interpret how they are living inside the world. So, and the foundation is this. So when we go through our lives, we come into contact with different objects and people. And what's really valuable is how we interact with these objects, with these people. And what's really valuable is our perceived experience towards these objects and people that makes our lives meaningful. And that's the premise, or that's the foundation actually. So it's when we come into contact with other things, these things, they change us. And if they change us in a positive way, by positive, everyone's definition of positivity is different, so we get to decide what's positive. So it's through these interactions we kind of grow and we kind of evolve, and we develop ourselves in this world. So this is the philosophical kind of foundation for the action, and all the rules of the game are based on this. And ideas on equality is the next layer actually. So it just borrows from the idea of equality to set up rules. So yeah, this is the philosophical outlook or foundation. If we take the money or the ownership foundation, the difference is this. So if we believe in ownership, then it's saying we are born into this world, and it's through our hard work that we accumulate objects that we can directly control, that make our lives worthwhile and make our being, grow our being. So that's the other philosophical foundation. So that's the difference. It's to me, the ownership foundation doesn't make sense, but it looks like society has been happy with about it more.
I just thought of something when you were saying that. Yeah. Because in America we have this expression which is so well known. When I was in China, I was buying a computer. Yeah. And it was late at night and all the stores were closed, but I went into a little tiny shop and I just pointed at that one. I was like, all right, I'll take that one. Yeah. And he's like, well, we don't have that one here. And I was like, all right, well then I guess I won't buy it. I guess I'm going to leave. And he's like, no, wait. So he gets some guy to go out on a scooter and get one and bring it back. So I got my computer that day, and then the only thing that guy said to me in English was, he said, and he kind of went like this, and he said, time is money. As you could tell, it was like, I wanted the computer right now. I don't want to wait, come back tomorrow. I'm not going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to go somewhere else. Time is money. I was like, yeah, good English. So, yeah. And people think, that that's the way Americans think. And I think Americans do think that way. So, and I think that's actually kind of part of the ownership idea. So, yeah. And that it just occurred to me when you were talking about the difference between these two worldviews, that actually maybe another way of saying it is actually that in the ownership worldview, it makes sense to sell your time for money. So of course, time is not money. Everybody knows that time is not money. But the reason why we say time is money is because you can sell your time for money. Yeah. So, which is basically the way that our society is structured. Yeah. And within that society, it makes sense to sell your time for money. Yeah. But to me, that doesn't make any sense, because it's like, why did we structure our society that way? Because you have, on the one hand, you have something that is irreplaceable. And on the other hand, you have something that is totally fungible, that is it doesn't matter what you do to get it. Once you have it, any amount of it is equally good, equally spendable with any other amount that you got by any other mechanism. So the idea that we take this irreplaceable thing and then trade it for something that is completely fungible is, to me, kind of crazy. But that's the basis of our society. So basically, kind of I think what I would say is that you're sort of throwing out that particular axiom, which is that it makes sense that you can actually exchange time for money. And then if you get rid of that, then it means that you actually have two different things that are actually not interchangeable anymore.
Yeah.
So you have time, which you don't know how much of it you have, but you know that it's limited, and you know that every day doesn't come back once it's gone.
Yeah.
And then you have money, which comes and goes.
Yes.
So if we're actually treating those two things as separate magisteria, then we actually end up with a totally different system.
Yes. Wow, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
Well, and I like that because that's the way I look at life. So to me, I look at time and money as completely separate things. So
same here. So
anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, all of this does come back to the point of how we actually implement this, which is what I'm starting to think about now. So I'm starting to look at we can build something on top of Ethereum. I'm not sure that there's any reason why that's not a good idea, but it kind of it's kind of like building something that's completely different from. It's sort of like you're building on top of a foundation that's on top of another foundation, and you're actually trying to get rid of this foundation, but you're building on top of something that's on top of that. So, but Ethereum, it's like I'm saying, it's sort of more general. So it's moving in the direction that we want to go, of something that's sort of fully general and sort of fully realizing what the capabilities of this way of interacting with other people is. But it hasn't really gotten there yet. So so I'm thinking about things that are even more general, and kind of what I'm thinking about is something like, and that's why I'm sort of like ramifying out into all of these ends of where the edges of the field are now, because I'm trying to see who's doing what I'm thinking about. But what I'm basically thinking about is, like, if you have, if you look at a Turing machine, for example, that's getting really abstract, but obviously a Turing machine is equivalent to any other Turing machine, and you can do anything on any of them that you could do on any actual computer. So
I read the definition about Turing machine, but I couldn't understand it. Could you explain, like, the Turing machine?
Okay, so a Turing machine is basically like you have a head that moves over a tape, and it can read what's on the tape, and then it can do things, and then it can write onto the tape, and the tape is infinitely long. Infinitely long. Yeah. So it can always move, one character, one position to the right or to the left on the tape. Okay. And as it keeps moving, the tape will keep coming in, and it will never run out of tape. Okay. So it's kind of like saying you have a computer which has memory, and you just never run out of memory. So you can always write to another position in memory, and you never fill up the memory. Yep. Which, if you have like 4 gigabytes of memory, if you're writing character by character, it's going to take a long time to get 4 gigabytes filled up. But then if you write a program that, does something that's, like has n cubed behavior, then it doesn't take so long. So, so basically it's like, it's a perfect sort of an ideal machine that can do any computation. And if anything is computable at all, it can be computed on a Turing machine. Oh, because it has a infinite resource or infinite memory to compute then. Okay. Yes. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. And it could continually keep running, and it might run like after everything else in the universe has gone cold, that Turing machine is still like and then, like, 3 universes lifetimes later, it's like finished, ding, and it gives you your answer, 42 or whatever it is. Yeah. So, and then there's all sorts of wonderful sort of philosophical mathematical theories that come out of this, like Rice's theorem and the halting problem and all of that. So it's like, if you have a Turing machine and you look at the Turing machine and you want to know something like, is this Turing machine going to stop or is it going to keep running forever? It turns out that we might be able to figure that out using some sort of human ingenuity, but there's no algorithm that we can use, that we can run, that will ever answer that question for us. So this ends up telling us something about the limits of algorithms.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so it's like you have computers thinking about themselves, and they can only think about themselves so deeply, and then they can't think any further about themselves without creating a contradiction. That's cool. That is really cool. So
it's like, it reminds me when I try to like figure myself out, it's very difficult.
It's like, I don't have the hardware to figure out what this hardware is doing.
Yeah.
You need a brain that is like, 4 times the volume of this one that can, figure out what this one is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more I read like early stuff in the the literature, the more I realize like all of the stuff that was figured out so early. Yeah. And so much of it gets forgotten later on. Like people don't, people can have their whole lives, using computers and even programming them and never like go back and read, Turing, or people can work on artificial intelligence and never read like, Marvin Minsky or McCarthy, these early guys that figured all the basic stuff out. But you go back and read these guys and it's like, man, these guys were geniuses. Like it took them like 3 years from the time that we had an electronic computer for the first time ever. And then they had already figured out the limits of what any electronic computing device ever for the rest of the history of the universe would ever be able to be capable of accomplishing. That's and proved it, mathematically. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I get kind of excited about this stuff because I love the theoretical aspects of it.
I just want to comment quickly. It's actually this kind of things also. I think about these kind of things. It's actually tied to a lot of other fields as well. Computer science and also physics and also quantum mechanics. It's there's this double slit experiment. I don't know how to explain it, but basically, I feel like as soon it totally messes up our current understanding of causality. So it's like, say, future, past, and present, they are kind of merged together. And it also tied to meditation. And this reminds me what you said about a lot of things that people that came before us have figured them out. I feel like, it could be that we're also feels like it's a virtuality game where we enter this game, where we kind of play around with it and then we exit. It's and also it's as soon as we can express something, it's already taking a certain form from the infinite possibility of things. So it has its starting point and then it has its end point, and we are just communicate whatever is in between, and we can't really talk about the things we can't talk about. So it's very interesting. Also, they say in those kung fu movies, they say that the highest level of knowledge is incommunicable in kung fu or wushu.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Well, actually, the interesting thing about that is that I think the highest level of knowledge in every field is incommunicable.
Yeah.
So it's not just martial arts. It's like philosophy. It's the same thing. So you read Wittgenstein, and he when he's 23 or whatever, he figures out, like he answers all the philosophical questions. In his youthful arrogance, he's like, okay, we answered all the questions. Like I figured everything out. And he writes his philosophical treatise, and then at the end he says, and he sort of recognizes, okay, there's some other things here that we can't talk about. So he says, of the things that we can't talk about, we have to be silent.
Yeah.
And then he just stops his treatise there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
Very.
when you get to the highest level in anything, you sort of realize that at that point there's something that maybe or maybe somebody knows, and whatever it is, they can't communicate it to you, and if you know it, you can't communicate it to anybody else. You
Yeah.
can just sort of like hint and show and say, these are the boundaries of it. But the
Yeah.
thing itself, like if you could communicate it in words, then everybody would already know it, but you
Yeah.
can't. So
Yeah. It's like if we want to observe the electron, we destroy it in the process. So it's a
yeah.
kind of analogy.
Yeah.
Why is it this way? Can we design a universe that's not like this? It's everything is communicable. Maybe it's not possible. I don't know. Interesting.
Well, that's a tough question. That one's
Yeah.
probably above my pay grade. I think you have to talk to Gödel about that one and see what he says. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think he would say that mathematically, it's like no matter what kind of a system you have, it will never be complete and consistent. So
Yeah.
there will always be something that is true that you cannot prove to be true within the system. But is that necessarily true in all possible universes, or could we design a universe where that's not true? I don't know. But if I had to guess, I would say we can't design that universe. So there's always going to be that.
Yeah.
But
okay. Well, yeah, maybe. Okay. Yeah, I think our 1 hour is up. So let's continue after. I think the rest of stuff are just administrative kind of things like toolmaster, update governance and stuff and things. So there.
okay.
Yeah, we can wait about this.
Yeah, we can do that after we get the website done. I think we can have a governance meeting.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, in that case, so we don't have a meeting for the rest of the week. Is that right?
Let's see, because maybe we could have one.
Or we can wait until the website is kind of live, and then we can meet again.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So just whenever it's done, send me an email and we can meet again. So
yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Let's do it that way.
That's good. Okay. Enjoy your trip in case you take a train or
Until I get on the plane, it's indeterminate. I could change my mind at the last minute. Say, okay, the train station's right there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. See you later.
All right. Have a great week.
You too. Bye-bye.